So that guy, definitely. I said, okay.
Should be live.
That's when he came back. And I said, so anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's fair. I don't want less people fashion. Okay. Yeah, I've got that. There's. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've heard everything, and I mean, I've done this never done. And I went to, it's developed out there, and they had two, set up, and here I come with my screen, and my projector, and I was like, listen, here's the two. Either I can have mine up here, I don't know where, right? Or, I mean, and they were like, okay, whatever. I'm just like, that would be like the reasonable thing to do, right? Like, it's plug it in. But if it's not, you have that stuff. You may find that they're like, and actually, I think he's good. No. Okay, that was
There he is.
Oh, yeah. I say, I saw him.
Yeah, he's making that happen.
That's not fair.
On the down. Right. There we go. Good evening, folks. Welcome to our public hearing. Can't hear. It's on. Is that better? We're going to start the evening by having our attorney explain what the purpose of the PUD is, so everybody will be on the same page as to why we're here and what we're discussing. So, Joel, if you want to explain that.
Sure, thank you.
We actually can't turn them up ourselves, but I don't think, can we be turned up? Yeah, I think we're getting help with that. Thank you. Try again, Brian. Folks.
Can you hear me now? Still no? You're going to have to speak what it is and the purpose of us being here. So, Joel, if you want to explain what PUD is.
Sure, I'll be brief. GM Development Companies and Surge Development LLC submitted an application to develop approximately, I believe it's 598 acres of real property located near I-70 and one to a development. And what development is it's a zoning district that allows for greater flexibility than what traditional zoning districts allow for. It essentially allows, in this instance, for the developer to submit an outline plan that specifies broad general uses for which the property will be used, and does not, and for development really doesn't fit within your traditional zoning districts. This has been a type of development that's been authorized under Indiana law. I'm not aware of any other planned unit developments in Henry County. The application was submitted to the commission. The commission conducted a public hearing, has forwarded that to you with a favorable recommendation. So now the ultimate decision as to whether the property be rezoned and the outline plan that was submitted with the plan development will be considered by you as the legislative body, the Board of Commissioners.
And just for clarification, explain that whether it's approved or not, if it's approved, what are the next steps following that?
It's approved. If there's ultimately going to be a development, there'll be 18 months then to submit a development plan, which will be a detailed description of what the exact use would be of those uses that are permitted under the outline plan. And that will include more detailed information as to exactly what would be built, where it's going to be built, how utilities are going to be supplied. It will have all of the details as to what will be developed. And that plan will have to then be approved and considered by the Planning Commission. And at that time, the Planning Commission can impose additional conditions on the development.
Okay. So to start the meeting off on our list that Susan has, we will allow people who are against the data center or the tech park project to speak first. And each person will have 3 minutes.
So Andrea Engelking, followed by Robert Gilmay. I know Robert, but I don't know how to pronounce his name. And if we could have people come up quickly, then that will allow for more speakers. So Andrea, followed by Robert.
Commissioners, good evening. My name is Andrea Engelking. I want to focus on one issue that should come before any discussion of buffers, economic development, or lofty PR promises, and that is water. Specifically, whether this location in Southwest Henry County can realistically and safely support a large-scale data center. The planned unit development document makes repeated references to advanced water technologies, yet provides no meaningful specifics. It fails to identify any cooling or water management system, estimated daily or peak water demand, or include binding commitments governing how water will be used. Although the PUD claims water use will be minimal, the developers have no end user and offer no data or concrete definition of what minimal means. This lack of transparency is especially concerning because the PUD offers no assurance of a closed loop or air-cooled design and no disclosure of what chemicals may be used, leaving commissioners and the public unable to evaluate contamination risks, including PFAS, often called forever chemicals. Approving zoning first and hoping critical answers follow later is particularly risky in this area with known water limitations. Our own comprehensive plan already acknowledges that Knightstown faces water capacity constraints and that those limitations restrict future growth. According to the DNR, the Knightstown area has 3 unconsolidated aquifer systems: the Teal Veneer Aquifer, portions of the Newcastle Aquifer systems, and the White River and tributaries Outwash Aquifer. These systems were identified as suitable primarily for domestic use and limited high-capacity users. All 3 systems share a critical weakness: limited capacity and vulnerability to contamination. The DNR specifically notes that aquifers in this area are moderately to highly susceptible to contamination from surface sources. When unconsolidated aquifers cannot keep up with demand, users often turn to the bedrock aquifer, but the bedrock aquifer recharges very slowly. If water is pumped out faster than it is replenished, the result is drawdown, reduced well yields, and long-term depletion. That is why actual pump rates matter. Without knowing how much water this project would use, there's no way to determine whether recharge rates could keep up. The PUD attempts to reassure the public by stating that no on-site groundwater wells will be used, but that does not reduce the risk. If Knightstown and Shirley cannot meet the demand of this nearly 600-acre industrial park, they could be forced to secure new water sources from the town, including using eminent domain to cross private property, even though the increased demand would come from a single private industrial user. In short, the aquifer systems in the area are limited, vulnerable, and already constrained. Approving this PUD without clear water usage data, recharge assessments, or contamination protections, and with no real definition of minimal water usage, it creates long-term risks that may be difficult or impossible to reverse. Thank you.
Robert, and then Ralph Hecht is next.
Question. Why have we assembled here this evening? I realize the logistical reason, but with intellectual reasoning, I ask, why are communities like ours meeting throughout our state and nation due to the controversy of data centers? The Epic Times, December 2025, reported, and I quote, "Big tech is spending $636 billion on the promotion, propaganda, and financial incentives to promote data centers. Why would communities not be standing in line or on a waiting list to develop one? Not so. Tucson, Arizona, unanimous vote, no. Charlotte, North Carolina, no. Preble County, Ohio, no. And according to Data Center Watch 2025, the states of Minnesota and South Dakota have stopped further data center development due to questions of tax abatements, subsidies, energy use, and infrastructure impact. The Washington Post, January 6, 2026, $98 billion in planned data center development has been derailed in a single quarter. I recently spoke with a gentleman not familiar with our situation and not from here, but who is an IT and AI engineer working on government contracts and is familiar with data centers. He stated, "Do you not realize these are nasty facilities? They use large amounts of water and energy and produce large amount of toxic waste. Propaganda talks about employment opportunity, but in reality, when operational, they employ very few, and those are skilled high tech. Even in construction, most companies are data center experienced and subcontracted from out of state. Your motels will profit, but your labor force will gain little." I wish to read a quote from a letter I received personally from our State Attorney General, Todd Rokita. And he says this, and I quote, "It is the voice of the people of Indiana, not those of big tech companies, that must be the deciding factors in where these massive structures are built." I believe Mr. Rokita was saying to listen to the residents, the citizens, and taxpayers whose quality of life will be affected by such massive facilities rather than listening to diamond donors to the EDC. There is no doubt that one day this land will be sold, but shouldn't it be sold as an asset to our quality of life rather than a liability? Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Ralph Hecht, followed by Cody Smith.
Good evening. Thank you for letting us speak. Ralph Hex on Grant City Road. I'm here to express my concerns today on why I can't support this project as the way the PUD is currently written. Water is still an issue that stands out. One way the developer could appease citizens' concerns is by inserting language that directly addresses those issues. With the HVAC, we hear the same thing: closed loop, recycle, reuse, low water technology. On the cooling side is closed loop. It's the rejection side of the heat on the condensate side that is the issue. And water-cooled condensers use a lot of water via evaporation. And when I brought that up, I was told cooling towers are antiquated. Well, they're antiquated, but they're still using them every day as well as data centers. If they sincerely want to appease and listen to what people are saying, then put in the PUD, air-cooled only condensers, no water source, evaporative cooling towers. Chris mentioned the town pumps capable of 1.4 million gallons per day, and which is verified. That's if all three pumps are working, which you don't want to have all three running 100% all the time. With the town utilizing 225 to 250,000 gallons a day, and they could upgrade to 10 million gallon per day pumps. The underlying issue is still the water. No one knows exactly how much what the capacity of the output of the aquifer is, and that's a fact. No one knows that. To be told they're only using 8,000 gallons a day, and then talk about tying in Shirley and Knightstown is a huge red flag. There's absolutely no reason why they need to tie in two municipalities for only 8,000 gallons a day. That's very suspicious. You hear the argument, we live by the highway, the truckers, truck stops. For noise pollution, let's look at the generators. At the Kerry Center, Chris said he likes the Siemens. He said 500 megawatts for the building, 200 for the grid. And the good thing is they won't be diesel generators, which is good. But you still have massive amounts of CO2. Each one of these produces 1,120 pounds of CO2 per megawatt per hour. You take that times 350, half the amount, not 700 megawatts, just half, comes up to 392,000 pounds of CO2 per hour. A car puts out 20 pounds of CO2 an hour. Take that, divide by 392,000, comes out to the equivalent of 19,600 cars running all day long, 24/7, 365. And that's a lot of CO2. And I wouldn't want to be in the area if I got asthma, COPD, or bronchitis. Currently outdoors, your average CO2 levels in parts per million are 420 to 450. 1,000 parts per million is considered unhealthy according to ASHRAE specs. True, the thermal energy in the fans can push it upwards, but you get a high pressure front from the weather pushing downwards, no air movement. And I wouldn't want to be in the area working. I mean, it's not going to be healthy, let alone CO2 is heavier than oxygen. So you're. Now on the eminent domain subject, stated on the website, why isn't the eminent domain in the PUD? And it was responded. All right.
Cody Smith, followed by Kylie Laylock.
Good evening, Commissioners. Today, I'm not here to appeal to your emotions. I'm here to respectfully warn you that approving this PUD creates immediate legal liability for Henry County because it violates your comprehensive plan, your PUD ordinance, and your own recent legal precedents. Indiana Code 36-7-4-603 requires you to follow the comprehensive plan. Your comprehensive plan is not vague. Page 84 explicitly segregates industrial use from the Knightstown exit. It states future development in and around the Knightstown exit should enhance the county's rural image. Crucially, the plan did designate a place for this project. Page 84 of the comprehensive plan states land in and around the New Lisbon exit shall be reserved for future industrial development. So the county planned for industrial development in New Lisbon area, but not Knightstown. Approving a 580-acre industrial complex here isn't an exception. It's a direct contradiction of the county's own zoning map. Additionally, section 159.032 of the Henry County Ordinance commands that an outline plan shall include preliminary concepts and feasibility reports for traffic ways, sanitary sewers, water supply system, and public utilities. The law, your own law, requires these studies now at the outline plan stage so you can determine if the project is physically possible before you change the zoning. In 2020, under case B 2241, this
prior planning commission reviewed a request to rezone just 40 acres on this exact corridor from heavy industrial to general business. Your own staff report concluded that heavy industrial is a poor fit for the area. And remember, this was just in 2020. This created a legal standard at that point. If 40 acres of industrial use was a poor fit in 2020, approving 580 acres of it now is a legal definition of arbitrary and capricious decision-making. You cannot tell a local hospital no on industrial density and then hand a billion-dollar corporation a yes for the same thing. All right. You're also about to violate your own public ordinance. Section 159.001 states that the PUD must reflect the policies of the comprehensive plan specific to the neighborhood. And the neighborhood currently is rural. The policies specific to this neighborhood is estate housing and equestrian farms per the comprehensive plan. Because this PUD is for I2 heavy industrial, it is legally non-compliant with section 59.001 on its face. You cannot pass a PUD that violates the very ordinance that allows PUDs to exist. We urge you to deny this application. Thank you.
Kylie Blaylock and Justin Lynch.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Kylie Blaylock, and I'd like to speak to you this evening on the economy, the AI bubble, and the future impact it will have on Henry County. The AI bubble is not new. We've seen this pattern during the dot-com and housing market bubbles, which led to two of the largest economic collapses in modern history. And that pattern is unfolding again today. In the late 90s, Business Week declared the new economy had arrived, and economists argued stocks were not overpriced and would maintain permanently higher valuations. In the mid-2000s, Fortune and USA Today assured the public that housing prices would not fall, a view echoed by the Federal Reserve. In both cases, hype outpaced reality, and communities paid the price when the bubbles burst. Today, major financial players warn that AI valuations are approaching dot-com era levels and a crash may be near. The technology may be new, but the hype is familiar. And that risk matters when we are being asked to permanently reshape Henry County's land, tax base, and economy around it. One of the most influential traders who profited from this pattern in market collapse is Michael Burry, famously depicted in the movie The Big Short. He predicted the 2008 housing crash and made a reportedly $700 million by shorting the market. Burry warned then that too much money was chasing overbuilt infrastructure, and today he's currently shorting the AI market. Major analysts warned that AI money is just circulating between companies and not real customers. The Washington Post calls it money flowing in a circular fashion, not creating value. Goldman Sachs says speculation is at dot-com levels, and Bank of America warns easy money is driving up risk. So what does that really mean? Imagine I own an apple orchard and I want to show there's huge demand for my apples. So I ask you to buy them, but you don't have the money. So I lend you $10,000. Then you use that $10,000 to buy my apples. Now on paper, it looks like I've sold $10,000 worth of apples, but in reality, no outside customer appeared. The money never left the system, and I ended up with the same $10,000 I started with, and the only thing that changed was the story we told about demand. When major market bubbles collapse, the hardest hit are local governments and communities, not national corporations. After the dot-com and 2008 housing crashes, communities face lost jobs, empty properties, lower tax revenues, and higher public cost, and that impact lasted for years. The pattern is clear. Overhyped markets with no real money hurt local communities and families. Here in Henry County, relying too heavily on one massive project could put our community at risk. We look to you, our leaders, to protect us, not just from the environmental hazards, but from potential economic fallout. Your guidance now can ensure responsible, safe growth for the community. Thank you.
Justin Lynch. Ron Williams.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Justin Lynch, and I've spent my 24-year career as an educator and school administrator working directly with students, teachers, and school budgets. My wife teaches in Knightstown. My two sons attend school here as well. So I would welcome funding for schools. But it's precisely because of that perspective that I am here to say this project will not do that. From the beginning, this project has been framed as a financial benefit to Henry County and schools. We've heard about growth, tax base expansion, and economic development. When you look closely, the financial benefit to schools is unclear, unenforceable, and overstated. Indiana Senate Bill 1 established strict property tax caps. Those caps are real and permanent. They limit how much revenue schools can actually receive, no matter how large or expensive a development may be. Those caps do not create new money for classrooms. They do not fix operating shortfalls, and they do not replace stable, predictable school funding. While property tax funds schools in many states, Indiana intentionally moved away from that model in 2008 under Code 2043, shifting instructional funding to state tuition support based primarily on student enrollment. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the money follows the student. In Indiana, that's about $8,000 per student. Enrollment, not property value, is what determines how much funding schools receive to pay for teachers, support staff, and daily operations. So if you want more money for schools, bring more people to the area. And new business, data center or otherwise, does not increase instructional funding unless it brings in new students, which large data centers rarely do. One belief is the data center can just donate tons of money to schools. If they do, that money cannot be used to hire additional teachers or staff. Indiana school funding laws require that permanent staff positions be paid for recurring guaranteed revenue. Donations and one-time contributions are considered recurring funds. They can help supplies and short-term programs, but they cannot support ongoing salary and benefits. At the same time, people live in and move to Knightstown because of its rural agricultural character, as stated in your comprehensive plan, and for quality of life. They do not move here to live next to a massive industrial data center. If families choose not to move here, or if they move away, enrollment declines. And when enrollment declines, school funding declines. If school funding declines, and teachers lose jobs, and class sizes grow. So this project creates a double financial problem for schools. Property tax caps limit revenue on the front end, and declining enrollment reduces it on the back end. Commissioners, fiscal responsibility means asking hard questions and refusing to approve projects that don't add up. Our schools deserve better than promises, wishes, and hopes that we have heard from the developers. My kids and our students deserve better than assumptions. And Henry County deserves decisions grounded in financial reality.
Ron Williams and Dean Thomas.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I live on State Road 109, and I'm not against data centers. I am against losing 585 acres of prime farmland. All my information is from Purdue Agriculture, but 585 acres of prime farmland in 2024, which are the latest figures, produced over 120,000 bushels of corn, or over 34,000 bushels of soybeans. There are approximately 20,000 corn and soybean family farms in Indiana. It is fifth in the nation in corn, third in the nation in soybeans. Indiana is sixth in the nation in biodiesel, and it's sixth in the nation in ethanol. I bring these points up because that employs an awful lot of people, more than the 500 data centers will ever employ that's in the state of Indiana now. In fact, corn and grain farming supported 12,060 jobs in 2024. Soybean farming supported 10,200 jobs in 2024. And ethanol production jobs, 41,500 employees. That's 63,000 jobs right there. And the more data centers that take off the ground, they're going to lose jobs here. Indiana produces 450 million bushels of corn. 43% of the corn in Indiana goes for ethanol. There are 15 ethanol plants in Indiana, and they really put out tremendous amount of work. The latest one is in Shelbyville, and it is getting ready to be doubled in size, thinking that we're going to have more corn down there and everything. saying that this is a state for farming and Henry County is a farming community. Even John Deere evidently thinks so because they're actually locating on State Road 109. They're closing their Rush County. They're closing the Hancock County, and they're coming right here in Henry County, evidently because we have so many good farms and stuff. I thank you all, each and every one, for your time. I appreciate it.
Dean Thomas. Randy Kimmerly.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dean Thomas, and I live at 5588 South, 1100 West, just to the north of the proposed technology park. I have several concerns in regard to the project, including increases to electric bills and decreases in property values. It has been mentioned that the technology park/data center will be powered by natural gas generators and eventually hooked back into the grid once the grid has been upgraded to accommodate the demand. My question is, who pays for these grid updates, and are these gas generators sustainable long-term? The current PUD has no mention of who will cover these expenses, which leaves the possibility of RMC users sharing a portion of these upgrades. The exact amounts we don't know. Energy costs can be up as much as 267% in surrounding areas near data centers, according to an analysis performed by Bloomberg News. Also, depending on the location of the grid updates and who is utilizing them, the possibility of eminent domain being utilized is a very real possibility. If it can be justified that this is a benefit for the residents within Henry County. The other portion of my question is, are the proposed natural gas generators sustainable long-term, or are they just a temporary fix? High level of energy consumption by data centers is a topic that has been discussed throughout several counties in Indiana, and Senate Bill 423 has been passed to give another option for powering these massive centers. Senate Bill 423 has been passed to start development of advanced nuclear technologies to meet Indiana's growing energy demands. Growing energy demands that are made far worse by data centers. The advanced nuclear technology referred to in this bill is commonly called an SMR, or a small modular reactor. This proposed site could very well be another possible location for one of these small modular reactors based on the huge energy demand that will be brought on by the proposed data center. And there is nothing in this PUD that prevents that from happening. Along with Senate Bill 423 that was passed last year, Senate Bill 424 was also passed that allows for utility companies to pass along the pre-construction costs of building an SMR to the ratepayers, yet another possible cost that hasn't been mentioned in regard to this project. Are the residents of Henry County okay with the possibility of a small modular reactor being built in this area and potentially wreaking havoc on the rates that they pay currently? The other concern that I have is regard for property value. It seems that the list of potential concerns that arise from data centers that nobody will want to live very close to one, which is why large, heavy industrial sites are not placed next to homes. If I decide that I no longer want to live near this proposed project, or if it's approved and the construction starts, how will I sell my house? Certainly no one will want to buy it. And does that mean I'm forced to stay or sell my house for far less than it is worth? If no one will want to buy my house in this situation, then regardless of thank you.
Randy Kimmerly, Eddie Hager.
Commissioners, we live in a world defined by what we can see and hear. We notice the bright lights of our cities and the loud roar of a passing semi. But beneath the threshold of our everyday awareness, there is a hidden world of low frequency sound, long, powerful waves that don't just hit our ear, they resonate through our body. These waves can travel 60 miles, passing through and around objects that were designed to inhibit noise, rendering berms ineffective. There are 2 school corporations within 4 miles, putting them in direct line of fire. Our world is becoming filled with this low frequency noise more than at any point in history. From the constant 24/7 rumble of a power generation to the deep hum of industrial fans from data centers, we have created an invisible acoustic fog. Today, I want to talk about how this fog affects 3 very different inhabitants of our community: ourselves, our animals, and the honeybees that sustain our food supply. Let us start with us. For humans, low frequency noise is often a silent thief of health. You might not hear the hum of a distant transformer or a large ventilation system,
but your nervous system feels it. Science has shown that chronic exposure to these low vibrations keeps our bodies in a state of low-grade fight or flight. It leads to sleep deprivation, increased blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, and a strange persistent sense of anxiety. When we ignore the low-frequency impacts from these data centers, we are ignoring a fundamental pillar of public health. There is a solid body of compelling, peer-reviewed evidence supporting Prince Williams County, Virginia effort to manage noise levels coming from such sources as industrial data centers. The health effects of noise over certain levels includes low frequency noise, contributes to severe health problems in adults, the elderly, and can cause developmental learning and sleep disruptions in children. Many species rely on low frequency calls to communicate across vast distances. When we fill the environment with our industrial rumble, they cannot hear each other, they cannot find mates, they cannot warn predators, and they cannot find their way home. We are effectively silencing the natural world by being too loud ourselves. Let's take a look at the honeybee. This tiny architect of our food security is responsible for 33% of the food you eat and has a direct effect on 75% of all crops. To a bee, vibration is everything. They don't just dance for fun. They use low frequency vibration to tell their sisters exactly where the flowers are. When we place noise pollutants near their hives, we are jamming their radio. Research shows that these frequencies can cause bees to freeze in place, paralyzed by the noise, become aggressive and stressed, or get lost in flight. By disrupting the bees' acoustic world, we are threatening the very process of pollination that puts food on our tables. So where do we go from here? The answer is not to abandon technology, but to be wise in our use and placement. We need to protect our community, the wildlife, and rethink how we contaminate the environment around us. We must advance the health of children and the future.
Thank you. Okay. We have 2 minutes and 16 seconds. For the next speaker to be short.
Yep.
The next speaker has 2 minutes if they'd like to take a short time. That's Eddie Hager.
Eddie Hager. I have been a lifelong resident of this community, or what would you say, 48 years of that. And I want to thank the commissioners for giving us this time. And I just have to give where credit is due. If it wasn't for Susan, we wouldn't be here. So we want to directly thank you personally for allowing the public to participate in this. Clap of hands for that. I want to address the PUD. The PUD is being egregiously misused in Henry County's application of this. It is supposed to be, and it even states in the agreement, that it's an agreement between the residents and the developer. Resident, developer. How many in this room participated in that PUD? How many people did not participate in that PUD? That's a lie. So the PUD passed by the Planning Commission is a lie. Correct? The PUD states that it is not in conflict with the long-term plan. It states it in it. It flies in the conflict of the 2018 and the 2025 study that was agreed upon. Despite what the attorney says, the long-term plan is not a suggestion. It's a contract with the public. And that contract is in breach if you breach it through a PUD. This will be challenged in court. You will be notified immediately after this meeting if this does not go, if this goes the wrong way within favor of. You'll be notified, and you're going to just put the county into a huge fight legally. So I would encourage the commissioners to listen to the crowd. Listen to your people, listen to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you all who have spoken so far. We're going to now to those speaking in support of the PUD. The first speaker is Scott Arat, and then Sean Beatty.
Hello, my name is Scott Reinhardt. I own 7 acres at the exit. I've lived in Knightstown area for more than 35 years. My 3 sons graduated from Knightstown. My grandchildren are currently enrolled. I've witnessed the decline of the area. I fully support the development of Henry County Technological Park to betterment the entire county, and here's why. The project is safe, clean, and profitable. It will benefit all due to the resulting increase funding for schools, public safety, officers, and all public services, and much more. And there will be new jobs and opportunities. In addition to Technological Park, we bring water and wastewater and utilities to the intersection. This has been a long time coming and will be a positive effect for everyone, allowing the Henry County Health Board to continue its healthcare goals, which include other facilities and expand services that cannot be built without water and wastewater utilities on site. The truck stops have been eager for years to connect to the water and waste, desiring to improve once they do. And the Technological Park will get this done at their dime. This is a big deal. And then maybe a restaurant or other desirable businesses will come to the exit. I would think this would be welcomed by everybody. And the development will be attractive, not an eyesore or appearance something proud of. Finally, to address the fear of the data center itself. I believe that this fear is largely due to false information being pushed around to frighten folks into holding communities back from progress. Developers are providing the answers to questions, debunking falsehoods about water and usage and safety, about electricity, noise, and environmental concerns. Everyone uses smartphones and other technologies that are different, resulting from data centers. Data centers themselves are here to stay across the state, across the nation. It's not possible for a technological park to be a threat just because of data centers within county lines. It is objective information that leads to sound decision making. I know what you know. There's a great need for economic growth to help people prosper, to be able to better care for themselves or families, and to have nice communities. There's an incredible need to update the infrastructure for Knightstown. I believe this technological park will stimulate Henry County its desperate needs in this time. This development at the intersection is not a threat whatsoever to the rural quality of the county. It will be a blessing to all. I encourage you to think reasonably and step back from your emotion that comes from fear and think about this opportunity to better the lives of citizens and ultimately your responsibility. Your children, my grandchildren, may want to live the rest of their lives in health and prosperity. It's a beautiful rural county, which will remain just as beautiful and just as rural with the Henry County Park there. It really comes down to, do you want Henry County to improve, decline? Thank you.
Sean Beatty, Samuel Gibson.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Sean Beatty. I'm president of Laborers Local 1112, based out of Muncie, Indiana. I do live in Henry County. I sit on the advisory board at the Newcastle Career Center. I want to share a couple things. Mr. Morris, developer, helped me get the very first high school student on a union construction project during school hours last year, getting high school credits to build a fire station that he was developing, and he got paid $16.88 an hour during half of his school day. Okay, that was my very first encounter with Mr. Martz. Since then, he and I have developed a partnership to where if this thing was to go through, that we are going to take Newcastle Career Center students out of the building trades program. We are going to give them the opportunity to work on this data center or any other developments that we have around here right now with opportunities of paid internships and or permanent jobs. There is 13,000 laborers in the state of Indiana. We have over 3,000 apprentices. At the Newcastle Career Center, over the last 5 years that I've been in there, we have not turned away one single student who needed a job after high school. I've actually taken a couple of kids from Shenandoah, walked them through a place called Pathway to Power to help them graduate high school. What I'm here to tell you today is that 700 jobs for the next 10 years would be remarkable for the Newcastle Career Center and all of us in Newcastle, right? We get to stay home, we get to recruit, we get to say we got all these jobs here. Right now, I have currently 150 active or retired members in Henry County alone. That's a lot of jobs that we've had, right? That's a lot of jobs that we're going to continue to have. If we was to land a job at the magnitude of what he has to offer in the development of this, it is bigger than the I-70 project running from Ohio to Indianapolis, and a lot longer jobs. So to say that they're temporary jobs at 10 years is a third of our lifetime of the careers in the community, in the Indiana construction industry. So to say that it's not producing jobs or that they're temporary jobs, this isn't a 2-year job. This isn't a 1-year job. This is a 10-year job. Imagine how many students we are going to take out of these Henry County schools and give them the opportunity to be a union tradesman, right? And I'm only speaking on behalf of the laborers union. There is a lot of union tradesmen in here. We have 13,000 laborers. There's operators in here. There's electricians. There's a UA. We have a lot of benefits, Just the laborers alone. We're going to start these kids out with their insurance. They're going to get a family insurance plan. They're going to get 2 retirement plans. We start them out at about $25 an hour, right out of high school with nothing else. These are real career opportunities. These are what's going to bring Newcastle kids to the union construction trade to stay here.
Samuel, it might be Gibson. I'm having trouble. Samuel, something that starts with a G, and then Paul Rambo. Thank you. Same.
Hi, my name is Samuel Gallion. I'm with Local 481 IBEW Electricians. I live here in Hancock, well, not here in Hancock County, this is obviously Henry, but I live in Fortville. And I come to show how pro data center I am. Let's start with power needs.
Let's be respectful to everyone speaking.
Let's start with the power needs.
Yours wasn't limited because you didn't live here. We just ran out of the 30-minute window.
Is my time still good?
Time.
Okay, so let's start with power needs. Sir, I'd like to speak. Let's start with power needs. Data centers require reliable, sustainable energy, and Indiana's stepping up in a big way. We've already had a $4 billion announcement for Indiana's first nuclear SMR plant, and that's going to be in northern Indianapolis for their headquarters, potentially Carmel for the actual facility itself. And it's going to be the Eagle One, which is the first of its kind in the entire United States of America. The first of its kind. And this will be providing at minimum 245 megawatts of clean, carbon-free power that's perfect for these kind of facilities. Energy needs will not have any type of attack on our grid. Obviously, this is a 10-year project. We're looking at having this facility done within the next 10 years as well. So you're already having clean nuclear power that will address all of those concerns. It's also with Governor Mike Braun and initiatives like the Purdue collaboration with AES to explore these SMRs like Eagle Valley. We're on track to have this nuclear technology operational, like I said, within the next 10 years. With water concerns, the developers have listened to the community. Surge Development is committed to 0 on-site well drilling, which means no direct draw from the Newcastle till. This was quoted on the WRTV where they were quoted numerous times on this issue. Instead, they're partnering with Knightstown to extend the municipality water and sewer lines using low water, air-cooled and/or closed-loop water systems. With the jobs, this project will be delivering the safest, highest quality union labor opportunities for Hoosiers across Indiana, bringing the best skilled labor we've got on our own dirt. They're not temporary gigs. It's a 10-year project. You don't see a lot of construction jobs that are even remotely to half of that here in Indiana. I've been an electrician for nearly 10 years now, and I'm telling you, most jobs are 2 to 3 years. 10 years is not temporary. The financial upside, most data centers on the low median scale bring in $5 million of tax revenue. What can you do with $5 million? Public safety, roads, firefighters, police, anything you would want with that $5 million. That one building can bring that to you. On the low end, we're not even on the higher end of that. Could be upwards of 10. We don't know yet. So in closing, this data center is a chance to embrace progress responsibly. I say we support it for clean energy, protected resources, and great union jobs. Thank you.
Paul Rambo and William Goodwin. It is really hard to listen to other people that disagree, but for everyone's sake and fairness, let's be respectful.
We're good?
Yes, sir.
It was a little low. Hi, my name is Paul Rambo. I live in Hebron, Indiana. I'm here as an interested party. I actually reside in one of the operating high power compute data centers here in Northwest Indiana. And I want to say, very much in support of the data center development, and Surge approached this in the appropriate manner. So unlike other opportunities for data center development in Indiana, this started with asking the constituents what they wanted to be successful, what they wanted for the community. And there was a lot of discussion previously about not bringing a tenant or a user to this conversation. And I think that's the important way to do this. Most of these conversations happen after the users or the tenants have provided their opportunity to the community and what the community can receive from those opportunities. We have this opportunity, and the constituents have flipped the script, and I think that's the appropriate manner to do this. We are approaching this from what is best for the community versus what is best for the tenant, what is best for these billion-dollar companies. That is not the purpose of these types of developments. Union spoke in favor of this opportunity as a 10-year development cycle. These are 30-plus year assets that continue to operate well beyond the initial development and continue to rely on local labor, local constituents, and local workforce for success. So to put it in perspective, when these data centers operate, they often are contracted both at the operator level and at the tenant level for a 4 or less hour response time for any event that happens at these facilities. I can't do that nobody can do that with remote labor. I can't bus in, I can't fly in. Qualified staff with the appropriate tools and skill sets to operate on these facilities in 4 hours. It's not logical. So there is a long-term dependency on the local labor and local support from the community to continue to operate. Another key item that we talk about a lot, that's talked about data center development in whole is water utilization. My facility is a closed loop facility. My highest water utilization was 41,000 gallons in 1 month last year, 41,000. So of that, 22,000 of it was merely for cleaning, to clean my closed loop systems, to keep the coils clean, to operate at efficiencies. So I reduced my demand on the grid. That is the majority of my water goes to cleaning. A lot of that water can be recovered and reused. The concept of the fact that every single data center of this size uses an egregious amount of water is rooted in information and legal battles with specific areas of the U.S. that were inappropriately developed for the use case. Namely, a lot of the data center development that happened in the southern portions of the U.S., south of the Mason-Dixon, many, many years ago. Majority of data center development isn't developed or designed in that manner any longer. And that was just due to the data center industry self-regulating. They identified that as a challenge. They identified that as an egregious mistake and have decided to correct and amend that problem. Thank you.
William Goodwin and then Mike Franz.
Hello, everyone. My name is William Goodwin, and I'm here to speak in favor of the Henry County Technology Park. To prepare for this today, I reached out and I spoke with Dr. Landon Marston and also Sam Carpenter. These are two gentlemen who spoke today in Indianapolis for the data center download seminar that I saw. Mr. Carpenter had specifically given me a policymaker's guide to data centers, which to me looked very much like a checklist to what these developers have been proposing in the restrictions. A couple things that stuck out to me especially was paying for the infrastructure upgrades to support the site, as well as, the use of closed loop systems. And I wanted to share actually one of the quotes that Dr. Marston had with me in our interaction. And he said, on the PUD approach, the approach Henry County is taking, establishing clear restrictions up front, such as no on-site wells and the mandatory buffers, and using a closed loop system, is smart. It is far better to see these guardrails proactively through zoning and PUDs rather than trying to negotiate them after a project is proposed. This provides certainty for both the community and the developers. So with what he said in mind, I think it's important to remember that there isn't a project being proposed here yet. The studies on the impact of what may be developed will come after this zoning discussion, when a project is actually put down on the table. In my opinion, from my conversations with Dr. Marston and Sam Carpenter, the developers are proactively taking a community-first approach to this project. Because of that, I believe we should give them a chance to propose their project after we get the zoning settled away. We have an opportunity to be an example for any development that should take place moving forward that takes a community first approach. So all I ask from the commissioners today is that when you guys vote, to heavily consider the PUD as it is and not so much about the problems that other areas have had or the problems of the past with these types of developments. Thank you.
Mark Grant and then George King. Mark Grant is on his way down. Can you put that me? Okay, that's okay. George King, followed by Brian.
Many of you know me. I am George King. I'm one of the few people in this county that I haven't signed the back of a paycheck since 1981. I have businesses out here. I have family here. Sorrowfully for me, my daughter, due to the lack of good employment here, is moving to Florida on next Tuesday. She went to the Marine Corps. She got her she got her government benefits, became a psychiatrist. We just don't have the stuff here. My grandson left Knightstown School, went to Eastern Hancock because the agriculture program is not good enough. I want to see infrastructure in this community. I have tried my best to research. One of the other things I have done is I've talked to members on our planning commission. The planning commission was voted in by this community. They are supposed to go and look at all of the issues. They are supposed to then make a decision what is best for the community, not for them, not for their buddies, but for the community. I think they have done their job. They say they have given me a great endorsement on this project. I think it should move forward, and I think it is nothing but positive for this community. One of the things they said, well, we're going to take ground out of production. Well, when I went to high school, man, they made 90 bushels of corn to the acre, and that was fantastic. Now it's routinely 300 bushels. Everybody says, well, you're going to take business away. Well, when I was harvesting corn with a 2-row combine, it took a lot of people. My son now has 2 12-row combines out there running. No, it doesn't take near as many people. I've seen these signs out here that say, I love data centers. I don't necessarily love data centers. I think the ones that were built 10, 15, 20 years ago were a detriment. But we have learned this new one will be a whole lot better. Anybody that doesn't want a data center, I think you should go home and throw away your computer, throw away your smartphone, because you're using a data center, whether it be here or sending your money somewhere else. But I really feel like our planning commission addressed all of the issues that were here. They have done so in a good way. They feel like this is a good thing, and I feel like I have confidence in the people that we elected for that position. If you hate that position, get up and run. Get on the planning commission yourself. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm Brian Runyon, and I live in Moreland, Indiana, and I think that this is an opportunity that if we pass this up, everybody's going to lose, okay? And what we got here is.
So 2 things. Let's not ridicule anyone else while they talk, please. And if you could talk to us, that would probably be better. Thank you.
Okay, well, what I'm getting at is the opportunities, if that came in Little Moreland there, and an opportunity like this come up, that way what I don't understand is the water that's needed upgraded in this town, the sewer it needs upgraded in this town, the roads that's going to be for Shirley and this town. This place is getting put behind if you pass this up, and even for our county. What other stuff can come in? We got Lily's down the street in Greenfield that can come this way and do business in this town, you know, and there's so many opportunities, even though I'm in the union and whatnot, and that would be a lot of work for our brothers. But, you know, just think about the small town little cafeteria down here and any other place that's doing business. This place is dead. I mean, I hate to say that, but it kind of is. The biggest thing that happened in this place was that Hoosier basketball years ago in that little gym down there. And then here I helped build this place. And, you know, that's what we got to do in our communities, in our county, is keep building to keep up with everybody else. Just like when they had that go-kart track that wanted to end down here. And then they said, oh, no, not in our backyard, not in our backyard. And then they put it down here in Newcastle. Now people all over the world come to a little bitty go-kart track. Who would have thought? But, you know, guys, we got an opportunity here. We might as well take advantage of it. You know, if we don't take advantage of this, somebody else will. You know, and it might be China. It might be another place that has all your data. You know, and why not just have it here? Why not take advantage of it in this small town? So that's all I got. Thank you.
Philip Roth and then John Davis. If Philip Roth is coming down, if you could just wave at me, okay? No, I got messed up in my invitation. Okay, and then John Davis is next.
Good evening. My name is Philip Roth. I am a practicing planner. I was asked to kind of address the commissioners this evening. I'm neither here for or against the proposed development, but rather to comment on some questions that have been raised about the consistency. How do you establish consistency of the proposed development with the comprehensive plan? I've been a practicing planner for 35 years. I currently work for the company American Structure Point that did the plan in 2018. I was not on the staff at that time, so I don't have any special knowledge. I just wanted to make a couple points about how consistency is typically evaluated. And I want to point out to start with that a comprehensive plan is an advisory policy document. It's intended to guide decisions. It is not intended to make them for you. The Henry County Comprehensive Plan itself states this very explicitly. It talks about how it's intended to be a policy document. Now, I got to say, I'm thrilled the fact that I'm hearing both pro and con for this development, citing the comprehensive plan as rationales for their arguments. I think that's entirely appropriate. I want to make it clear, though, that the citation of a particular point in the comprehensive plan alone of context does not in and of itself constitute an argument for or against any particular proposal. Rather, it is the document in its whole nature that you must consider. In other words, the plan is identifying things for you to take into consideration, but it's up to you to identify the weights that you want to put on those various factors. So the question before you isn't simply whether the plan identifies water shortages on the one hand or economic development needs on the other, but rather how you trade off those various things in coming to a decision. The last thing I want to mention is the statement that the comprehensive plan is a contract. I do want to point out to you, technically that is not true. Comprehensive plan is an advisory policy document that has multiple competing objectives. It is something for you to help determine how to balance different things going on in the community, but it's not unequivocal enough for you or for the public to consider it as a clear contract of what you intend to be doing or what the county should be doing. It exists to inform judgment, not replace it. Thank you.
John Davis and then Chris Kyler.
Good evening, Commissioners. For those who don't know me, my name is John Davis. I'm a police officer here in town. I live here, raised my son here, my family owns a business here. And I'm not here on behalf of any company or political group. I'm just here as someone who sees this community every single day, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I want to say something up front. It's completely reasonable to have questions. It's completely reasonable to be cautious, and healthy skepticism is not the problem here. What concerns me is misinformation and fear replacing facts. In my job, I see patterns. I see what happens when towns grow, and I see what happens when towns slowly shrink. And those towns don't just collapse overnight. They slowly bleed out with fewer jobs, fewer services, and fewer young families staying, less tax base, and less reasons for people to move here. We usually notice the decline until it's already too late. I believe this proposal isn't about becoming something we're not. It's about whether we want the ability to remain what we are and not fade away slowly. A stronger tax base means better roads, better infrastructure, better emergency services like our police department, and less pressure on homeowners. It means options, it means stability. It means our kids having reasons to stay home when they grow up. And I've heard people say we don't need change. Respectfully, standing still is a form of change too, and it's usually not the kind we want. So I'm not asking anyone to blindly trust anyone. I'm asking people to do the work, read the actual information yourselves, ask real questions, separate what's proven from what's assumed, and don't rely on screenshots and rumors from Facebook. It's the devil. And at the end of the day, no project is perfect. This decision isn't about today, it's about 10 years from now. It's about whether we have the courage to think beyond ourselves and think about the future for our children. But I want to be clear about something else. If this commission and people who make these decisions decide to move forward with this process, I expect them to work very hard to get the best possible deal for our community. That means protecting our interests and asking tough questions and making sure that this benefits our town and our county as much as possible. So moving forward doesn't necessarily have to mean settling. It means negotiating from a position of responsibility and authority. I have no doubt that we should move forward. And I do expect the people in charge to secure every advantage they can for the people who live here in Knightstown.
Ms. Tyler, if you'd like to speak, you have 2 minutes and 30.
Perfect. I'll make it fast. Thank you. I'm with a company called Indiana Geothermal. I'm neither for or against this data center. I'm here to speak specifically about the water usage. The lady who spoke, the young lady who spoke first, did a very good job in opposition and had legitimate concerns about water usage. As an open loop system for this project, it is physically impossible to provide enough water for it to be open loop. That is not even an option that's on the table. Neither the water municipality nor the groundwater could possibly sustain that. So it's not even on the table. We do projects with Colgate, who worldwide is on a mission to do net zero water usage. We just did a project in Rushville where we eliminated their cooling towers and went with a closed loop geothermal system. And my point here is that there are options available that do not include any water usage whatsoever. I understand they need to be spelled out, but there are legitimate concerns with the water that can be completely mitigated through other technologies, and there is no water usage needed for the cooling of this facility. Thank you.
Thank you all for signing up to speak. And what's our overall? Are we going to go to 8:10 since we started 10 minutes late?
We can.
Okay, so then we have 35 minutes and
Run out of stuff to talk about, obviously. We don't have to stay.
So who did we? So Joel already spoke, but Tom Green did not. I don't know if Steve Russ wanted to or not, and then the developers.
We need to do that or do the developers next.
Well, Tom's here. When do you want to speak, Tom? Okay.
So
I signed up on the list and I did not hear my name called.
I understand. So we had 30 minutes to speak in favor of and 30 minutes against, and we're just hoping to get through as many people as we could. So I apologize that you didn't get to speak tonight.
I'd say let the developers go ahead and speak now. Yes. I don't know if we want to open it up for everybody asking questions during the. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for taking time to hear our thoughts this evening. I'm Greg Martz from Springport here in Henry County, and I'm here tonight with my partner, Chris King from Shelbyville, as well as members of the Weimer family from Knightstown. We're the petitioners this evening representing GM Development and Surge Development. Thank you for the time you have spent over the last year to hear about our vision for this remarkable site. We first have some prepared comments, and then we may have some additional thoughts to address some of the topics brought up tonight as well. We'll begin our discussion with some of the project basics for those in the audience who may not be familiar with our approach. First, the proposed property is located on the northwest corner of exit 115 on I-70. This is commonly referred to as the Knightstown exit. The property is bounded by I-70 on the south and Highway 109 on the east, which has the obvious benefit of providing immediate access to two major road systems. But what really makes this site special are two large gas lines immediately adjacent to the site. Many of you may be familiar with this gas line as it bisects our county from north to south. For decades, this line has been looked at mostly as a liability for our county because of its strict but very necessary rules within the large easement. But our proposed project is trying to convert that seeming liability into a major asset for our community. Simply put, this large and flat site, combined with immediate access to both Highway 109, Interstate 70, and an abundant and redundant supply of gas, has created a very special opportunity for our county. In fact, there are only a handful of sites in the entire state that have these same features. To give you a little history and insight into our approach, we have purposely made this a longer zoning process than normal so we could give everyone who wanted a voice in this project a chance to meet with us and express their thoughts. As you know, county code would have only required a first notice to the public to have been 30 days prior to the Plan Commission meeting. However, we voluntarily chose to openly discuss our vision for the entirety of 2025 by holding 2 all-day open houses, writing op-eds for the local newspaper, attending multiple neighborhood meetings, county meetings, radio shows, and podcasts, as well as having many, many one-on-one meetings with anyone who asked. Additionally, we have also attended the 2 required Plan Commission meetings and the Commissioner's recent work session, and of course, the public hearing being held tonight. We're very thankful for any opportunity for the community to hear about our project, and thankful to be here in front of you and the community right now. Another important piece of background information for those in the audience who have not been to previous meetings is to answer the question, what is a PUD? PUD stands for Planned Unit Development, which is a customized zoning for a particular site. A PUD uses an existing zoning code and then builds upon it. The reason PUDs exist is so the county and developer can provide additional restrictions on a specific site without affecting any other property or property owner in the county. The way it works is that the petitioner selects an existing zoning code and then provides the additional restrictions in the application. In our case, we selected the I-2 zoning code as the underlining code that we would build upon, which was the main topic at the Commissioner's workshop on the 7th. So we thought we'd discuss the reasonings for that tonight. First, the reason we selected I-2 as the underlining zoning code is because it provides the most restrictive language in all of the Henry County Development Code when it comes to property development standards and performance standards, such as odor, vibration, noise, particulate matter, mineral extraction, and land rehabilitation. This is all covered in pages 50 to 57 of Title I of the Henry County Development Code. County planning staff can confirm, but I-2 provides the most restrictive language for each of these items versus any other code that we could have selected. And in fact, some other codes we could have selected would not have mentioned these categories at all. Second, perhaps you are thinking, that is nice that you're adopting all the restrictions in the I-2 code, But surely the I-2 zoning code also has some potentially egregious permitted uses that comes with it. I'd like to direct your attention to a chart that Chris is getting right now. The chart, which we also presented at the County Plan Commission meeting. This chart shows that nearly all permitted uses in the I-2 code have been eliminated by the PUD. There are 47 uses permitted in the I-2 code, and the PUD eliminates 39 of them and further restricts 2 of them as accessory uses. As far as the remaining 6, as you might expect, the word data center was not on the mind of any of the authors that created the development code in 2004. So the remaining permitted uses are only to allow for a data center to be defined however you'd like to categorize it, whether industrial or research. We are eliminating all other categories that clearly would not be a way to describe a data center. The content of the PUD document is to make clear that our intention is to seek data center usage. And this may be the most important point of this evening. Every sentence of the PUD document adds restrictions to the existing development code. There is not a single request in the PUD to weaken or eliminate existing restrictions in the I-2 code, which, as we have discussed, is already the most restrictive baseline we could have selected. To summarize, 1, we have selected the most restrictive baseline code available in the Henry County Development Code. 2, we have eliminated all uses that could not reasonably be considered a data center usage. And 3, we have not requested any changes that would weaken or eliminate existing restricting language in the development code. So to repeat, the PUD only adds restrictions. It does not relax existing standards in any way. A third point regarding the underlying zoning code, and another question you may be asking is, what happens if you aren't able to attract a data center to the site? As this was also another topic at the workshop meeting. The answer is found in Title 10, page 4, Section E of the Henry County Development Code, which states that we must have our project submitted to the county via development plan no later than 18 months after commissioner approval of the PUD. Further, in Section D, it states that no permit can be issued for building construction until the development plan is approved. Clearly then, if the development plan is not approved and the permit is not issued within the 18-month period, the result is that the zoning returns to its existing agricultural designation automatically. It does not revert back to an industrial use. To be clear on how this would work in real life, we are going to work on attracting a data center to our community if the commissioners accept the Plan Commission's recommendation to approve our petition. If we are able to attract a potential data center, we'll submit a development plan to explain all details so the county can ensure we have kept all promises made in this document. If we are unable to do so within the 18-month time limit, then the PUD expires and the zoning reverts back to agricultural usage, not industrial usage. So that gives you some background information on the PUD and also the reasons on why we have formed the PUD document as it is submitted. Now let's talk a little bit about why we're here tonight. I want to emphasize that tonight in the zoning process in general is simply step 1, and there are still many steps remaining after this evening. These steps include approvals of future development plans and local, state, and federal permitting processes, and studies for water, wastewater, stormwater, electrical, gas, architecture, structural, wetland, air quality, and erosion control. To be clear, we are not asking for approval for any of these with this process, as they are all future steps with their own vigorous review processes. I hope that this will take pressure off both the commissioners and members of the audience this evening, realizing that there are many future reviews, audits, inspections, and approvals from local, state, and federal government units to ensure that the promises we are making this evening will be adhered to. Also, to be clear, we are not asking for approval of a data center company tonight. As we have said in hundreds of conversations over the past year, we have not had a single conversation with a data center user like Google, Amazon, Meta about this site at any time in this process. You may find this surprising based on what you have seen take place in other counties. But as you all know by now, we are trying to do things differently with this project. In fact, it's an approach that has not been attempted anywhere in the country. The reason we are not discussing this project with a company prior to achieving zoning is simple. We do not want the company to have any influence whatsoever over this zoning process. We have all seen what happens when they do. So if we are not asking for approval of a specific data center company tonight, then what are we asking for? Here's the answer. We're voluntarily asking to add restrictions, or guardrails as we call them, to the property to restrict the way future users can use the land. By doing this, we can ensure that a big-pocketed company cannot use their influence to mold the zoning around their own needs. We have seen companies attempt this in other counties and states many times, but again, we are trying a whole new approach. We want the community and not the company to determine the parameters of the zoning. This is why we've spent the past year trying to reach as many folks as possible throughout Knightstown and our county. This has been an all-consuming and physically exhausting journey for us, with conversations with community members starting early morning and ending late in the evening on many days. These meetings have not been about telling our vision, though. Rather, it has been about listening and trying to establish the vision around what we are hearing. What we have discovered is that, of course, not every member of our community thinks the same way. We live in a world now where it seems we are not allowed to have different opinions. But in my book, it is wonderful that we think differently. In fact, the biggest blessing of this process is that we have met wonderful people on both sides of the aisle, folks that are for and folks that are against what we are trying to do. We've met almost everyone, in fact, that spoke for and against the project tonight. And I want those that spoke against the project to know they still have a voice with us going forward, despite their current feelings for the project. While we all have differing opinions, we've also discovered there are certain things that nearly everyone agrees on related to water, power, noise, and environmental concerns. It is these unanimous topics that we have used to develop the guardrails in the PUD that I've been talking about. From our conversations over the past year, it is clear that the county's traditional I-2 zoning would not meet the desires of the community. So the way we are establishing these new guardrails is through the customized PUZ zoning document that is before you. We've tried to make these new guardrails as clear and concise as possible. Here they are. First, no on-site wells and no open loop cooling system. By far the main topic in nearly every conversation of the past year has been water usage. The reason is that some data centers use a type of open loop cooling system that can use millions of gallons of water per day by sucking water directly out of the ground. It is terrible, and as we have said many times before, we are vehemently against using this kind of cooling system. The good news is that there are other cooling systems that use very little. To ensure that the future company cannot use the open loop system, we have included a restriction in the presented zoning document that permanently eliminates on-site wells. This language is found in section 4 of the zoning document under the utility infrastructure paragraph. Additionally, at the Plan Commission public meeting, we agreed to permanently restrict open loop cooling systems. This language will ensure that water must be provided by the local water utility and eliminates the usage of the open loop cooling system. Additionally, we have agreed to pay for 100% of the cost to upgrade the utility system to provide reliable water and wastewater to the site. To be clear, and to address a topic that came up at the workshop meeting 2 weeks ago, these upgrades are not about adding capacity to the system in order to withdraw more water from the aquifer. First and foremost, these upgrades are simply about providing service to our site, which currently doesn't exist. Additionally, it is about replacing aging equipment that, from our understanding, the town has been trying to replace for years, but has not been able to fund. What we are saying tonight is that if we are able to attract a data center to the site, we're going to pay for those upgrades so we can receive service at our site. This is not about increasing quantity of water, and we will easily comply with any quantity restriction that the town's engineer places on the system, as the restrictions we have put on the project will ensure that we will not be a large water user. These upgrades are about increasing quality and reliability of service, not quantity or volume. In turn, the entire town will benefit from these upgrades that we are paying for and are so sorely needed. Second, on-site power generation. Questions regarding electrical usage is also a major topic that comes up in nearly every conversation, and rightly so. Data centers can use immense amounts of power, and there are many examples throughout our country where this has caused stress on the grid. Additionally, there are examples where rates have gone up for average citizens because the electrical company has had to pay for necessary upgrades to serve the company. As you will remember, the special aspect of this site is that it is situated directly adjacent to two high-pressure gas lines. That electricity will be generated on site by converting gas to electricity rather than taking power off the grid. In fact, the main reason for a grid connection at this site will be to put excess electricity generated on the site onto the grid. This project would become a net contributor to the grid rather than an abuser of the grid, like we have seen so many times before in other states. The third paragraph of section 4 is where this is addressed in the PUD document. As you know from previous meetings, we have agreed to pay for 100% of these upgrades, meaning that 0% of these costs will be paid by other ratepayers. Third, noise mitigation. The most important aspect of noise mitigation is to codify measurable and enforceable methodology. The county's existing noise ordinance is one of the best and strictest we have seen, as it takes into account various pitches in addition to volume, which protects both animals and humans. It also explicitly requires that noise and pitch levels are measured at the property line, meaning that the entire area of neighboring properties are protected by the ordinance. The submitted PUD adopts the county's existing noise ordinance, and the future company will be required to strictly adhere to it. Additionally, we have added a requirement for 8-foot tall berming to provide acoustical separation from adjacent properties. Fourth, environmental concerns. This topic is something that we are extremely passionate about, probably more so than any other topic. The zoning document adds several important restrictions to the site to support wildlife and provide permanent undeveloped space to be utilized as parks, natural areas, ponds, and green space. Examples of this are an open space strategy that requires at least 25% of the site remains undeveloped, which is approximately 150 acres, a minimum 300-foot setback for all buildings from the site boundary, and a 120-foot wide perimeter buffer landscaped with native plantings. These strategies help preserve rural character, but they also provide protection for wildlife by providing a road network of sorts for wildlife to travel. These guardrails regarding setbacks, open space, landscape buffers, and berming are established in section 7 of the proposed PUD document. Additionally, and since this was a topic at the workshop 2 weeks ago as well, I specifically wanted to point out that there is a very robust section in 9.4 subsection I of the underlying I-2 zoning code regarding particulate matter and emissions. Table 17 specifically provides measurable requirements for any user of the site, which absolutely must be adhered to. To refer back to our initial comments this evening, this is one of the main reasons that using the I-2 code for the underlying zoning was important to us. With all of these new guardrails together, we believe that this will become the most restricted site in the county. Planning staff can certainly comment on that, but we are not aware of any other property in the county that comes anywhere close to having this combination of restrictions. But again, we are making this request voluntarily because we believe it's the right thing to do. We'd like to close with a discussion about next steps. As a reminder, we have had no conversations with potential end users even to this day because we did not want any corporate influence over this zoning process. As you can imagine, this process would have looked much different had a company been involved. But Chris and I have said from the beginning that this would be a community-first approach, and we have stood by that promise, as all of the ideas that have formulated the PUD document have come from conversations with folks from Henry County, not from any corporate bigwig. We have stayed true to that promise, even knowing that the unprecedented restrictions that we are voluntarily offering are going to be somewhat of a shock for the corporate world when we start having conversations with them. The reason is that, as we've stated previously, this land will become the most restricted site in our county, and the promises made in the PUD are very expensive. Things like reserving 25% of the property for undeveloped green space, tens of millions of dollars invested in berming, town water systems upgrades fully paid by the company, wastewater treatment plant upgrades fully paid by the company, and gas and power upgrades fully paid by the company. This adds up to a very expensive list, and because of this process, there will be no room for corporate negotiations to whittle away at them. So the very next step is for us to begin discussions with potential data center companies with the goal of hopefully attracting a data center company to this site and to our county. We believe we will have we believe we will have a and very strong interest in the site because of its access to major interstate and highway systems, fiber, and of course, an abundant supply of natural gas. But we also have tempered expectations because of our community first approach. In order for this to work, we have to find a community-minded company. Look at our list of non-negotiable requirements as an investment in the community and not as a barrier to entry. We expect that this will take some time, but ultimately, all we're asking for is to give us a chance to try. The way I see it, there are three potential outcomes of this process. First, you can determine that the good old days have already come and gone, but try to grasp onto the last remaining remnants of those days by voting no and attempting to keep everything the same. I liken this to standing put on a sandy beach, thinking that we are keeping everything the same. Meanwhile, waves keep crashing on us, waves like the recent property tax bill that has gutted our county's ability to create revenues. And while we think we are staying in place, we're actually sinking in the sand. This is potential outcome number one. Potential outcome number two is that you vote yes and accept your Plan Commission's recommendation. But we are subsequently unable to find a community-minded company that is willing to take on the investments that we are requiring. While this would be incredibly disappointing for us, at least we can all hold our heads high as a community and say that we did not bow down to corporate demands and we refuse to play by their rules. The result of outcome number two is that the site remains its current agricultural use, and the town, county, and school systems will need to find another way to combat the effects of the state's new tax laws. And the local water and wastewater systems will need to find other ways to pay for its sorely needed upgrades. We will do everything we possibly can to find a company to keep this from happening, but the truth is that our approach has never been done before, so we can't guarantee that we'll be able to find the right type of community-minded company. Outcome number three is that you vote yes, and we are successful in finding a community-minded company that will invest multiple billions of dollars and provide hundreds of jobs in our community. And we move forward with building this project using local skilled union labor. This would mean that Henry County proved to the rest of the world that you don't need to bow down to corporate pressure to be successful. We will have proven that there is a new approach to development that can protect rural communities' character and resources from corporate scumbaggery. And in doing so, will establish a precedent for the entire rest of the country. In other words, outcome number three is that we determine that the good old days haven't passed us by, not by a long shot. In Henry County, Indiana, the states of America, the best days are ahead of us. So let's make it happen. Thank you for your consideration.
Debbie, how many minutes is left in that 30 minutes? How many minutes is left in that 30 minutes?
I was going to make just a few more comments if you don't mind. Thank you. I'm going to grab this so I can get a little closer. Sorry. Thank you. Commissioners, I just want to say thank you for the time and care that you've put into this project. It's clear you have taken ownership of this project, and that is so important. And I want to talk to you about the ownership that Greg and I are taking in this project as well. Greg is a lifelong community resident here in Henry County. I've had the great fortune of being able to work in this community over the last 19 years with my construction company, building projects like Henry County REMC's building, what was formerly the Paddock in Knightstown, 2 shell buildings in partnership with Henry County. We appreciated that opportunity. We look at this as our community as well. We are so focused on making this the best possible project that we can. We really started this different than I think any other project has been really approached in the state of Indiana. The whole idea was to come community first. It was to spend time, and now it's been almost an entire year that we've been talking to the community. And we do appreciate all the comments on both sides of this project. There's been many things that have been brought up in this process that have been identified that we've been able to change this plan. And so I want to thank everyone in this room for their participation in this process, because it has made this a better plan for us, but for the community as well. Full focus has been on tangible community benefits. How can we improve infrastructure? How can we think big and do something that maybe couldn't be achieved unless we brought the right opportunity? We focused on high standards, and they may be very difficult for us to reach, but our focus is absolutely to do that. Look at this as we've tried to create an example. Other communities to look at this and say, this is the way development should happen. Again, it's been nearly a year. We've worked through this process. And then there's a time limit going forward on for us to perform. So we're going to be very focused on making sure that this is the best possible outcome that we can. We're focused on problems of the past and projects like this, and we have tried to engineer a solution to where it won't be an issue going forward. So I just want to say thank you for the time and consideration that we've been through with you, with the Planning Commission. I want to say thank you to all of the residents who have participated in this process. Many meetings, many open houses, many times in kitchens, and meeting people. So it's been a good process for us, and we are truly invested in making this the best possible project that we can for this community. So thank you.
I'd like to ask a couple of follow-up questions to the members. So why does the PUD not just say for the data center? Restricted it to just be the center. Why does it not just say that use as a data center?
So our approach from this perspective is to really try to create as much opportunity as we can for the community. If you look at Henry County and the rich manufacturing heritage that it's had, we see manufacturing as a great potential for this site. So that is really the approach here. If you read through the planned unit development, what we focus on is data center uses and advanced manufacturing uses. And as technology moves forward, we are seeing those two complement each other. There's been examples, I've used Lilly as an example of a manufacturer in drug manufacturing that is using partnerships with data centers to create drug models and to manufacture drugs. That's one example. There's other examples with Hyundai doing something very similar, BMW doing similar things, Anduril. So we see that as a potential opportunity, and we're being very strategic in that.
I see two kind of point of views. One is it's either going to be a data center or it's going to go back to ag, which is what I thought I just heard from Mr. Martz. And then they're saying basically it's going to become something.
I think,
yeah, what the right answer is.
The whole point to this is that we do not have a user at this point in time. So we've tried to keep the door open to those opportunities while excluding the egregious uses that are within the I zoning. So we, have pulled many uses out of both the I1 and the I2 zonings both. And our focus is in a very narrow band to be able to bring a good project to the community.
I like to feel like I'm having all the cards put on the table. So you told me in private you were getting good feedback from people. I keep hearing, haven't spoken with anybody. And then I hear on one hand, it's going to be a data center. And I hear it's going to be something. So what I really want to know is, who have you spoken to? Which end users are giving you positive reception? And is it going to be data center or nothing else? It'll be something.
At this point in time, our focus is what's laid out in the PUD, which is the ability to do data center uses and advanced manufacturing uses. We have not had substantive conversations with any data center users or manufacturing users. We have heard that there are people that have interest in the project, but we have not engaged in conversations with those folks about this site.
Just to be absolutely clear, Commissioner, that means zero conversations. We've had zero conversations with end users.
Okay, I misunderstood. You said positive feedback, so that must have been something else. And then another question is, why are there not more restrictions in the PUD as far as amount of water, CO2 levels, or some of those things that would seem like you intend to do those things? I don't see a gallon restriction. Just curious, since you come to kind of a specific idea of how you want to care for these things, why are some of those things not spelled out in the PUD?
I'm sure Chris will also want to say something about this, but there's multiple reasons for that, but the main reason being is that a restriction like that would be the document that we would sign with the utility itself. And so what we've agreed to is that whatever utility we work with, which presumably would be Knightstown, if they're willing to work with us, would have a restriction, and we would have to comply with that restriction. That's not necessarily a zoning topic, which again, Mr. Green, I guess in the next part can tell me if he thinks that's correct or not. But it definitely will be a topic with the utility. And that definitely we are expecting that the utility is going to, their engineer is going to tell us what those restrictions are. And we're going to have to comply with those.
Okay. One thing I did want to clarify, there was a comment that the planning commission was elected. So is it free game for anyone's, comments to me, but the planning commission are not elected. And this will be the time again that the commissioners will get to talk about this PUD. So further details down the line are just not something that an elected official will get to see. Here's another question I have is, do you all intend to still control the property in the future with time to feed back into the grid?
Our intention is that we undoubtedly have other partners because of the way that bringing on a new data center would be. But our intention is that we remain permanent owners. Thank you.
So Tom and then potentially Seabrust.
I don't really have anything to add other than what Mr. March said. He outlined the PUD and what was proposed in the PUD and how we would follow that.
And I wasn't clear on Seabrust wanted to speak or someone
Yeah.
on his behalf.
Mr. Rust?
And we had a request from one legal representative to speak also.
Lorraine White. Prior to this meeting, I provided you with a hard copy of my 22-page remonstrance brief and attached exhibits. You can find it inside the binder in front of you. The brief details the remonstrance that I represent today. These clients are directly affected by this land use and the decision. They will have standing to take appropriate future legal action. Unfortunately, with the time that I've been provided, I cannot provide you a detailed presentation on the brief and exhibits as the petitioners have been allowed. But I am sure that you all have reviewed and considered the information I provided you within that 22-page brief, as you are required to do. If you have, you already know that this project does not meet the standards that you as commissioners are tasked with reviewing pursuant to the Henry County zoning ordinance. Section 159.045 A through I. Since petitioners have failed to meet this burden, remonstrators are asking that you deny GM's application. Within those 22 pages, you will most certainly have already found the documented evidence showing how this PUD does not comply with the comprehensive plan, how it does not fit the current conditions and character of this land, how it is not the most desirable use for this land, that it will be detrimental to the health and safety of Henry County citizens, as well as injure property values, and that this PUD is not an example of responsible growth and development. Based on the information provided to you today, my clients request that you deny this PUD. Kicking the can down the road on these items allows petitioners to argue in the future that they've spent too much time and too much money to stop this project from moving forward. The developers have made no written commitments to this board or the county that would tie them to the promises that they've made. Finally, I've provided you with proposed findings of fact, which you may use when you discuss this information provided and vote on the PUD. If you have any questions regarding those 22 pages, I'm happy to answer them now.
I haven't read them yet.
I would like to. I'd like to ask to agree. Wasn't there another study done?
Yes, there was a recent corridor study that was done last year.
And could you summarize what that said for
It
this
had a
area?
number of really good ideas for development. I think a lot of people, probably a lot of the people in this room attended the two meetings that they had. That plan took about a year to come up with a review and a proposed plan that was submitted to the commissioners. I believe you got a preliminary copy of that and were asked for comments. There being none, a finalized plan was presented to the commissioners and again asked for comments. There being none, so I guess that was a tacit agreement that things that you saw in the plan were good. In that plan, it called for a lot of nice things south of the interstate. Bike paths, walking paths, development of residential areas. North of the interstate was designated as a development area, and about 800 acres was designated as potential development for I-1 uses, and in particular for data centers.
Thank you. Joel, do you have anything else to add?
I don't.
Also, I know there's been several legal codes and statutes that have been thrown around there, and I didn't know if you wanted to address any of those.
No, I can address those privately with you and have a privileged conversation.
Do we want to reallocate the time to hear more feedback from the public?
I didn't want to open up for free for all because that's what's going to happen.
That's what the public's about.
He stated that he is the end user when they said that they're gonna keep the property. Wouldn't that make him the end user? I got confused.
Clarification would be great.
I didn't hear the question. I didn't hear.
Would you like to address that?
Yeah. After Greg has a chance to speak, maybe we should set up a plan, could do Q&A, or we can go back to the list, or we could close, but it could get chaotic if we don't establish a plan.
I believe what Gail was asking was, does that mean we're the end user if we continue as owners of the land? And the answer to that is simple, which is no. We're not a data center company. We're a real estate development company. And so obviously, the way that real estate works is you lease buildings to users of those buildings. And so that would be what our intention would be. Thank you.
legal counsel for the group. State is that representing what group that is and who is involved
We didn't ask everyone else to give their name. Joel, what is the right?
I mean, this is your meeting.
It's true. I have her name on the list for legal representatives. It doesn't say who she's representing. Joel, if you'd like to get that information, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's stated within the 22 pages you were handed today. It may in fact be.
So it's public
But
record then?
I mean, no, I don't think you can compel anybody to answer your questions here tonight. So.
I had an opportunity to ask questions, and I didn't specifically ask anyone to bring legal counsel, so someone.
Don't say, does anybody in this room feel like they need legal counsel? I guess that's the biggest question, because I don't believe any of you need the legal counsel. You were here free to address the, as a hearing, which has been unprecedented. That's never been done before. So, this board here has been over backwards to make sure that this has been done for the public benefit. I don't believe anybody needs legal counsel.
I think we did try to accommodate in requests that were made and try to do so in a fair manner. Until the attorney that stepped up, she couldn't use this because other people had been told no. And we have tried hard to accommodate everyone in a fair way. So we have been told by our attorney that we can't ask anyone to give that information.
And actually, Commissioner Wiley handed me in fact, is in the packet cover letter as to who the listed persons are. This would be a document that anybody in the public could also request, and it would be a public record, so we could get you a copy if you'd like to see that. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyone who wants that information can come to the courthouse, make a public request, and it'll be given to you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to, I need to get a copy tonight, if that's what you thought. Yeah.
It's like, 'cause I didn't bring a printer with me, so we're not doing that.
So I was actually looking at this clock over here when I asked what we wanted to do with the remainder of the meeting, so that's not correct.
No, it's not.
So we have 5 minutes, and should we close the meeting then? I thought we still had 30 minutes. And
No.
so that I felt like maybe we should reallocate the time, but.
I just want to say I really appreciate the turnout that we've had, and we've had a lot of good comments, and I've received many emails from a number of you, and I can guarantee you I've read every one of them. And I understand that it's an important thing for everybody to. It's an important issue and one that we've been saddled with. And we take this this responsibility very seriously. And we're trying to do the best we can to make sure we follow the guidelines that are instilled upon us with our attorney and with the rules and laws that we understand that we're supposed to follow. So thank you so much for your time and your attendance here. And I think the behavior has been very good, and for that we're thankful. And so thank you to everyone.
Absolutely.
Can you move the vote back to the Smith Building for the people, please? Yes. We feel shut out. Yes.
It's live streamed, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. We can.
Thank
Yeah.
I was gonna say, first off, we need to make sure the village is available when we can, because if it's not, we won't be able to, because they have other people they rent that building to. So, we will check on that. You know, some of you will have to take up a donation and give to our IT department because of the nightmare this creates for them to do all that. So that's sarcasm. So
I should have definitely said that our IT department has worked. They've spent a lot of time making sure that this can happen, and we really appreciate that.
Definitely want to say thank you to the Knightstown High School for providing us with the opportunity to visit in this beautiful facility. Thank you to the Knightstown Police Department for your support and being here and helping with traffic and everything else that needs to happen. But I really appreciate this evening. Thank you.
thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Exactly.